Welcome to Lesson 1-5, Day 2, Metric Units. Today we're going to talk about how to convert between metric units. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that after we're done with this lesson, a lot of you are going to wish that we actually use the metric system as opposed to the customary system, because it is a lot easier to convert between these units than it is to convert between customary units. So to help us remember the different prefixes for the metric system, I like to use the sentence, King Henry died by drinking chunky milk. The K in king helps us remember kilo. Kilo is the biggest metric unit, so whether it's a kilometer, kiloliter, or a kilogram. Henry would stand for hecto. The D in died would stand for deca. B is your base. So these three units here are your base units, the meter, the liter, and the gram. Okay, so each of these is a different kind of meter, liter, or gram, a bigger meter, liter, or gram. So the further up the stairs you go, the bigger the unit of measurement becomes. Then we have deci, centi, and milli. So the further down the stairs you go, the smaller the unit of measurement becomes. Right, so when we're working with these stairs, like I said, the further down you go, the smaller the unit of measurement gets, and when you go up, the bigger the unit of measurement gets. So when we're going from stair to stair, so each stair, you can imagine there's 10 in between, not 10 stairs, but there's 10 units. So there are 10 milliliters in a centiliter. There are 10 centiliters in a deciliter. So when you're going up the stairs, your units get bigger, so your number is going to get smaller. And I would make sure to write this down. So when you're going from milli to kilo, you're actually going to use division, okay, because your number is going to get smaller. So if you have 10 milliliters, you're going to have only 1 centiliter. And the way that I like to do it, instead of using division, I like to just look at the decimal. So when you're moving up the stairs, your decimal actually moves left. Right, so as you go up the stairs, your number is going to get smaller because the unit of measurement is getting bigger. And because your number is getting smaller, you're actually using division to go from one step to the other. And we're actually dividing by a base of 10 or a power of 10. That's why moving the decimal works, okay? Because we don't have to divide by 5 or divide by 3 or 12. We can just divide by a power of 10, and since our decimal system is powers of 10, it makes converting much simpler. All right, so now let's say that we're actually going to go down the stairs. When we're going down the stairs, our units are getting smaller. Which means my number gets bigger. And because of that, I'm actually multiplying by a power of 10 each time for each stair. Okay, so if I were to go from kilo to hecto, I would multiply by 10. Kilo to deca, I would multiply by 100. Kilo to base, I'd multiply by 1,000. But instead of multiplying or having to sit down and actually write it out, we can just move the decimal to the right. Right, so going down the stairs, you're multiplying by a power of 10, or you're moving the decimal to the right. Going up the stairs, you're dividing the decimal by a power of 10, or moving the decimal left. As you go down the stairs, your units get smaller, so your number gets bigger. And the reason that happens is because you have to think that you can fit a lot of these into one of these. So you can fit a lot of millimeters into a kilometer. Remember, a millimeter was the thickness of a dime. Think of how many dimes you could stack next to each other and fit inside 6 city blocks. That's why the number of these inside of one of these is so large, because these are so tiny you can fit a lot of them into the bigger unit. Alright, so let's go ahead and try this. The width of a book is about 22 centimeters. How many millimeters is that? Well, you can draw your own set of stairs, and I'm always okay with you doing this. I'm not going to put it on a test or a quiz for you, but if you want to draw your own stairs and say, King Henry died by drinking chunky milk, you're more than welcome to. You can put in the letters too. That might help some of us. Okay. I'm going from centi to milli, so I'm going to the right, which means my decimal has to, or I'm going down the stairs, which means my decimal has to move to the right. So my number should get bigger. So there's one of two ways you can look at this. You can look at this as I'm taking 22, the stair I'm on, and since I move one stair, that's 1 power of 10. So I'm taking 22 times 10 to the first power, because it's only one stair, which means I'm taking 22 times 10, which gives me 220. So there are 220 millimeters in a centimeter. The other way you can look at this is you have 22 centimeters. The decimal starts here. Because you're moving one stair, you're moving one decimal place to the right. Again, giving you 220 millimeters. They're both the same thing. Work-wise, I would think this would be a little bit quicker. However, you need to understand that this is what's going on. So we can try again. I have a backpack that has a mass of 6 kilograms. And I want to know how many grams that is. So first I have to decide, am I going up or down? I'm going down the stairs. So since I'm going down the stairs, I know my decimal has to move to the right. And it has to move 1, 2, 3 places. Now, a lot of students make the mistake of counting the stair that you start on. When you count stairs, you don't stand here and say, okay, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. No, you say 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. So that means, since the decimal always starts behind the whole number, we have to move our decimal to the right, because we're going down the stairs, 3 places. So we move it 1, 2, 3 places. Now, since there's nothing here, that doesn't mean that it doesn't change. That just means that we have to add zeros. So 6 kilograms is equal to 6,000 grams. Now, movements like these, from centimeter to millimeter or kilograms to grams, these should be fairly common for you. And you should always know that if you're going from kilogram to gram, so because we're taking the 6, and we know we have to multiply it by a power of 10, in this case, like I said, we're moving 3 stairs, so it's 10 to the third power, which means we're taking 6 times 1,000, which in turn gives us the 6,000. Okay? That's what we have to remember that we're doing, and it's always going to be that way. If I'm going from kilogram to gram, it's always times 1,000. If I'm going from gram to kilogram, it's always divided by 1,000. Again, if you're working well with just moving the decimal, that's absolutely fine, but this is actually what's going on. So a water bottle holds 400 milliliters. I want to know how many liters that is. This time I'm going up from milliliters to liters, so I'm going from milli to base, and I'm going up, so my decimal has to move left. And it might be helpful to write that down when you're working, so that way you're remembering which way to move the decimal each time. And it has to move 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So it starts here and it moves 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So because it's going to go in front of the 4, I know I have to add a 0 in front of the decimal. Okay? And we can take the zeros off from behind the 4, or we can leave them on. It doesn't matter. So look at this. My number went from being 400 to 400 thousandths, or to 4 tenths, however you want to look at it. My number did get smaller because my unit got larger. All right, so you have 3 problems here that I'd like you to try on your own. Go ahead and pause. Make sure that you're showing your work either way that you want to do it. If you want to do it by multiplying or by moving the decimal, please just make sure to show your work. And when you come back, we'll go over your answers. All right, so for 95 centimeters to millimeters, you should have gotten 95 hundredths meters. I'm sorry, that was meters, not millimeters. You should have gotten 95 hundredths meters. So here I show you that you move the decimal 2 places to the left, because it always starts here. Or you could have done 95 divided by 10 to the second power, because it's 2 places on the stairs. So it'd be 95 divided by 100, which is actually going to give you the 95 hundredths. Then for kilograms to milligrams, you should have gotten 2,700,000 milligrams in 2 7/10 kilograms. Again, moving that decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the right, because there's 6 places from the top stair to that bottom stair. Or you could have done it as 2 7/10 times 10 to the 6th power, which would have been 2 7/10 times 10, I'm sorry, times 1 million, which would have still given you the 2,700,000. And last but not least, your 100 liters to kiloliters. You're moving 3 places up the scale, so you're moving it to the left 3 places. Or you could have said, we're taking the 100 and we are dividing it by 10 to the 3rd power. So we're taking 100 and dividing it by 1,000 and getting 1/10. When you're moving your decimal like this, that's actually what you're doing. So for every place that you move your decimal, you are either dividing by a power of 10 or multiplying by a power of 10. So in this case, because we moved to the right, we're multiplying by a power of 10. So 2 7/10 times 10 would have been 27. 2 7/10 times 100 would have been 270. Times 1,000 would have been 2,700, so on and so forth. So moving the decimal is the exact same thing as the dividing or the multiplying, depending on which way you go. All right, now we have a word problem, so you know what that means. We need to take out our highlighters and highlight the important information, so that way we can go ahead and solve this problem. So during the 2004 Tour de France, Lance Armstrong was the stage winner from Tours to Blois, which has a distance of 67 5/10 kilometers. How many meters is this distance? So go ahead and pause and highlight the important information. You can go ahead and try the problem, and when we come back, we'll go over your answer. All right, so it's important to note that they went 67 5/10 kilometers, and it's important to know what the question is. The question in this case was, how many meters is this? So I know that I'm going from 67 5/10 kilometers, and I'm ending at meters. Okay. So how many steps does that mean we move? That means we move 1, 2, 3. And which way do we move the decimal? Well, because we're going down the stairs, we move the decimal to the right. Or we can say, does that mean that we multiply or divide? That means that we multiply. So you can look at this one of 2 ways. 67 5/10 times 10 to the 3rd power. Or you can take and do 67 5/10 and move the decimal to the right 1, to 3 places. Either way, you're going to come up with an answer of, let me just finish showing you this work, 67,500 meters. Right, so for your assignment tonight on Edmodo, you are going to post your answers to the following 8 problems. And when you post, all you have to do, you don't have to write what the conversion was. You can just write the number and what your answer would have been. So for number 1, it's 60 millimeters to meters. So I know that I moved the decimal 3 places to the left. So my answer is going to be 0. And 60 thousandths. But make sure that you put your label on it. And that is all I'm looking for when you're posting. So I gave you the answer to number 1, still post it, and you need to do 2 through 8 on your own. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to post them to Edmodo so we can go over them in class tomorrow.